The Spider-Man Far From Home trailer is about to play, but if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame yet, stop watching because there's some serious spoilers about to come up. But if you have seen Avengers Endgame, enjoy the trailer.
Modern economists divide their science into two main parts. The first of these two parts is called microeconomics, and that's what this class is. It's a microeconomics class. Microeconomics is about the small pieces. It's about individual businesses, individual workers, individual consumers. It's not about why 15% of the population is unemployed. It's about why this particular person is unemployed, why that business is making money or not making money. Okay? Macroeconomics is the big picture. Macroeconomics is, this is what unemployment is in the country. This is what GDP is for the country. It's about the world, the economy of a country, the big picture. The author of your book says that there are two big questions that define microeconomics. The first of those two questions is the what, how, and for whom. That means, what do we produce? What goods and services do we create as a country? How do we produce them? Do we farm by having 1,000 people wander around a field and do things by hand, or do we have giant machines that do it? How do we produce? And then, for whom? Who gets the benefits? Who gets paid the money? How do we split up the money between raw materials and business people and workers? For whom? And then, another basic question that we got to talk about here is self-interest and social interest. If people are doing what they think is best for themselves, can that translate into us doing right for our society as a whole? Okay, big question. Okay, goods and services. Businesses produce two kinds of things. They produce goods. Goods are physical objects. So that jar of peanut butter there, my favorite peanut butter, Skippy Natural Creamy, is a good. Goods satisfy our wants. They create utility for us. Utility is the economist's word for happiness. Okay? A good is something that satisfies our wants, that creates utility, that makes us happy. It's a physical thing that does this. We also buy things, and businesses produce things that are not physical. Your bank, your hairdresser, the person who cuts your grass, the little kid down the street who you pay $5 to cut your front yard. Those are services. They are intangible. There isn't a physical thing that you get that you walk away with. You get a service, okay, an intangible. But it satisfies your wants. It makes you happy. It creates utility. Some basic details that we're going to expand on and talk about. Our economic system, the system that decides how we're going to answer those questions, what and how and for whom, is called capitalism. These isms, if you've never seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Ferris Bueller is in the shower and he complains about all these isms. There's capitalism and socialism and fascism and feudalism and all these economic systems. We have an economic system called capitalism. We'll talk about this in pieces off and on through the whole semester. Capitalist system is based on markets. It's based on free choice. It's based on consumers, people, and businesses getting to make their own choices. So you can walk into the grocery store and you can buy Skippy, or you can buy Jif, or you can buy Smuckers. There's 20 different kinds of peanut butter you can buy, and you get to make the choice. If the company that's making peanut butter makes terrible peanut butter, nobody's going to buy it. That company suffers. You can go into the market and you can decide on buying oranges or grapes or lemons or whatever. It's choice by the business what to produce, choice by the consumer what to buy. How does this all work? A market is a place where buyers and sellers get together, where buyers and sellers come in, negotiate, interact, and make the exchange. In our system, where everything is based on money, in a money system, what determines who gets what, and in fact in a barter system too, in a trade system it's the same thing, but it's just less obvious. There is information available to consumers about what to buy. And the key piece of that information is the price. Prices are the key information in a capitalist system that drives the market and tells us what to buy. If we are used to paying $1.19 for our burrito at Taco Bell, and all of a sudden we walk in there and it's $4.49, we're probably not buying that burrito. We gather information from prices. Prices help us make decisions. So the buyers and sellers come together. The seller is looking for particular prices. The consumer's looking at the prices. The prices help the seller decide what they're going to produce and what they're going to sell. They help us, the consumer, decide what we're going to buy. When gas goes down, gasoline goes down, normally we drive more because the price is lower. But maybe not. Maybe we're not buying and therefore the price goes down. Again, this is basic economic stuff we'll be talking about over and over and over again. The key to this system working is that we have the correct prices in the market and that the buyers and sellers have the right information. So here we are again with these three questions. What to produce, how to produce it, and for whom. How do we answer these questions? In a capitalist system, we answer these questions primarily through the use of markets. The market decides what we produce. Businesses that produce things that consumers don't want are going to stop producing them. Businesses that are producing things that consumers really want, businesses are going to produce more of them. So we're all stuck in our homes. All of a sudden, you can't buy a Nintendo Switch or Animal Crossing because everybody wants them. That means Nintendo should be out there trying to produce more and more and more. At the same time, there are things that we were buying a month ago before everybody went into isolation. Now they're not buying those things, fewer produced. We're seeing farmers who were selling to restaurants not able to sell. They're going to change their behavior. Okay? How do we produce? Businesses are going to want to produce their product not in a cheap way, but in a way that's low cost, that they can make money off of. So in some countries, they're going to choose to use a lot of workers because workers are inexpensive. In some countries, they're going to choose to use a lot of machines because machines are inexpensive. We don't make clothes in the United States anymore. We used to, but we don't. Why do we make clothes in certain parts of the world? Because the manufacture of clothing is labor intensive. We don't really have a machine that you can throw cotton in one side and a shirt comes out the other. The clothes you're wearing were sewed by hand by someone. If you're going to make clothes by hand, because that's the only way you can make them, the how is going to encourage you to make those things in a country where labor is inexpensive. So clothes are going to get made in Vietnam, or clothes are going to get made in Honduras because the cost of labor in that country is lower than the cost of labor in the United States. And then the for whom question, right? The market's going to decide, and we'll talk about all these things more over time. The market's going to decide who gets paid and who doesn't. These are complex interactions that have to happen. But the joy of capitalism, one of the joys of capitalism, is that these things all happen because the individuals involved get to make their own choices. So consumers are going to the grocery store and they're making their choice about what they're going to buy at the grocery store. The grocery store is making their choices about what they're going to buy and put in the store based on what consumers are buying in their store. Farmers are deciding what to produce based on what the grocery stores are buying from them. So you have millions of farmers and thousands, at least thousands of stores, and then millions of consumers, and there's all these interactions going on between the consumers and the grocery store and the farmers, but there's no point where one person has to decide what's going to happen. There's a market. One person may decide for that grocery store, but if the grocery stores decide, some grocery store decides they're not going to stock peanut butter, you're not going to shop at that grocery store. If lots of grocery stores stop stocking peanut butter, farmers are going to grow fewer peanuts. It doesn't take someone to tell us that individuals in this system are going to figure this out for themselves, their own part, and then all of these millions of people who have figured this out, the system coordinates them all and makes the world beautiful. Let's look in a little more detail now at the how part. How do we produce? In general terms, we produce by combining 4 factors of production. There are 4 things that are involved in this production process in a general sense. Those 4 are land, capital, labor, and entrepreneurs. And we'll talk about each one of those now in turn. The first of those 4 things we call land. You might call it natural resources, but that's a lot of syllables, and economists traditionally just use the word land. Shorter, cleaner, land. So everything that is a gift of nature is land. The ground is land. The oil in the ground is land. The cow that's walking across the ground is land. The air is land. A bird is land. A fish is land. The ocean is land. Okay? Everything that comes from nature is land. Next is capital. Capital is, like all the other things, a critical part of this. Capital is man-made things that are used to make something else. So if you talk to a finance guy and you say the word capital, they'll instantly think money. Well, what is money except for a man-made thing, a human-made thing that we use to make things? Money doesn't have any value in and of itself. Its value is that it lets us do something. Capital, factories, machines, the hammer, things we use to make other things. If we go into Chipotle, have lunch, they have a building, capital. They have tables and chairs, capital. They have a counter with all kinds of different delicacies spread across it, capital. They have a cash register, capital. They have a flat top and a whole bunch of cooking utensils, capital. Okay? Capital. Things that are made by us, made by people, that are used to make other things. Next is labor. Labor is people. As I'm creating these videos for you, I am labor. University is paying me to make videos. Labor. If you go work at Chipotle, you're labor. If you work at a factory, you're labor. Whatever you do that you get paid for, that you're producing a good or service, you're labor. Someone's cutting your hair, they're labor. You're talking to a person on the phone at your bank because there's something wrong with your debit card transaction. That person is labor. Okay? Now, we use this phrase, human capital, to talk about labor because not all labor is the same. Some labor is better at their job. Have you ever worked? You know that there are people who are better at stuff than other people. Human capital is our natural innate skills and abilities, and it's also our education and training. So you're going to college. That means you are trying to improve your human capital so you can be better labor. The better labor you are, the more you should get paid for being labor. If you have no skills, no training, no abilities, you're going to get paid less in general than someone who has lots of skills and training and abilities. Okay? Your human capital, your innate ability as a person plus your training and experience. Labor, people. The world's full of land and labor and capital, but businesses just don't pop into existence. We just don't get a Chipotle just magically out of thin air or a Chevrolet factory. Somebody has to decide these things. We have a group of people that are called entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur is the person who brings together the land, labor, or capital. The process of doing that is called entrepreneurship. So a business might start another business. That's entrepreneurship because there's not some individual creator, but entrepreneurs are the people who bring together the land and the labor and the capital. So Henry Ford, entrepreneur. Magic Johnson, entrepreneur. Taylor Swift, Kylie Jenner, entrepreneurs. People who created something, brought together the land and the labor and the capital. The trick to successful businesses is figuring out what the consumer wants and then bringing together the right land and labor and capital in the right combinations to answer that need that you saw in the consumer. That's what makes entrepreneurs. When Bill Gates and his buddies created Microsoft, there were competitors. There were other companies doing exactly the same thing led by other people. Microsoft wins that war. We don't know, most of us don't even know the names of those people anymore who were competing against Microsoft. The successful entrepreneur figures out the right way to mix that land and labor and capital and produce the right product. Okay? Somebody has to do that. That is the entrepreneur. That entrepreneur, because of that, they should get rewarded for producing that land and labor and capital mix that best benefited the consumer.